Are you playing ostrich? Are you in denial? Have your kids said, Mom, Dad, don't worry, you can move in with us. We're never putting you in a nursing home. Well, stay tuned. We're going to talk to you about reality. Hi everyone, my name is Rick MacDermid and I am with Senior Solutions Group in beautiful Yakima, Washington, the hop capital of the whole North American continent and the apple capital of the world, right here in beautiful central Washington. Today we're going to talk about a subject that is probably not near and dear to your heart because no one wants to think about this. A lot of people just want to play ostrich and bury their head in the sand. So probably the least thing that you ever want to think about, or the thing that you don't want to think about, is what's going to happen to me as I age. Am I going to be able to stay at home? Am I going to be able to take care of myself? Am I going to have to rely on my kids? How am I going to afford the cost of care? Who's going to direct my care? Am I going to be able to pick and choose where I get my care? Or am I going to be told where I can receive my care? So if you want to stay in control and not be at the mercy of the government, not have to spend down your savings, you might want to consider investigating long-term care insurance. And here's why. In the mid-90s, I worked for a company that primarily marketed long-term care insurance. And I was young. I didn't know what long-term care insurance was. My best friend said, "Hey, Rick, I'm working for a company and we help people pay for their nursing home care." And I had worked in a nursing home, but I did not know that there was an actual insurance product that you can get to pay for it. I really didn't even know how much it cost, even though I worked in a nursing home. Well, my eyes were opened back in 1995. I met with hundreds of people, talking to them about their horror stories of dealing with their parents and their loved ones having to pay for the full cost of their care. You work hard your whole life, you save up a nest egg, and then in a heartbeat, it's being obliterated by the ravages of the cost of long-term care. Well, I did pretty good working for this company, but I didn't do great, so I ended up leaving the business after a couple years. And guess where I went and worked? In a nursing home as a social worker for about a year plus. I saw on a day-to-day basis the reality of what happens to families who don't plan ahead. So people don't plan on this happening. I don't know of anyone that plans on needing long-term care. Well, yep, when I turn 80, I'm going to end up in the nursing home, or I'm going to need home health care, or I'm going to need assisted living care. You know, people think that it might happen to their friends, but never to them. It's hard to picture yourself, if you're healthy, that happening. But we all know people who've been healthy one day, and the next thing you know, they have a whole slew of health problems. Things can change on a dime. We've dealt with it with family members ourselves, with our own family. So one of the things that we want to talk about is what's the reality? Where are we at as a nation? How can we afford to pay for this high bill? The state where we live, in the state of Washington, has even passed a law saying that all Washington residents that are employed will start having to pay a long-term care tax. Well, the state of Washington has had to go back to the drawing board because the way they drafted it was not adequate. It had a lot of holes. It was not set up properly. So that just goes to show that there is an issue that the government can't afford to continue to pay like they've been paying and stay solvent. So let's talk about this. Do you have a parent or a friend that's needed long-term care? We have. My wife's grandmother needed long-term care. And fortunately, she got a plan from me back in 1996 and needed to use it, and it paid her whole assisted living bill until she passed away. So did it solve all of our problems? No, it didn't solve all of our problems, but it made life more bearable. Long-term care is not designed to solve all of your problems, just like insurance isn't designed to solve all of your problems. If you have a homeowner's policy, and your house is flooded, you need to vacate your home, just because you have homeowners insurance doesn't mean that you're not going to have to go live in a hotel for up to maybe 6 months to a year. Doesn't mean that your life isn't going to be disrupted, but it's a whole lot easier to deal with it if you have a plan in place. So what are the odds of your house burning down? Maybe 1 in 10,000? What are the odds of you needing long-term care? Let's take a look. So this is a website called longtermcare.gov. It's an official government website. So who needs long-term care? Well, according to the studies, most studies say if you turn 65 today, you have an almost, not 7%, not 17%, but 70%, 7 in 10 chance of needing some type of long-term care in the future before you pass away. Women need care longer. Why is that? Because they live longer. So if you're married and you're the wife, there's a higher chance that you're going to take care of your husband. And what's that going to do to you? What if you're 85 years old and you're taking care of your 88-year-old husband who is unable to care for himself? What's that going to do to your health? Now, your husband may pass and you take care of him for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years or longer. Your health will, in all likelihood, suffer. Once he passes away, there's a much higher likelihood that you'll need long-term care now because you live longer and you are burnt out taking care of your husband, which happens all the time. If you go to a assisted living facility or a nursing home, you'll notice that about 7 out of 10 people are women in these facilities. So 1/3 of today's 65-year-olds may never need long-term care support, but 20% will need it for longer than 5 years. Okay, so we can see these statistics here, and I'll post this link down below in our notes. So you can check the link out to the website, and there's a whole bunch of information on this website you can look at. One of the things it's going to talk about is Medicare and Medicaid. Now, who pays for all of this? Does Medicare cover long-term care? Let's go to the Medicare website. Medicare doesn't cover long-term care, also called custodial care. Medicare only covers short-term rehab care. So if you go to the hospital with a stroke or cancer or heart attack or a broken hip and you need rehab care, are they going to give you all of your therapy in the hospital? Are the hospitals keeping people for a long time? No. So you'll be transferred to a nursing facility or back home for your rehab care. Medicare will cover a maximum of 100 days if you meet all of the criteria, which includes a 3-day hospital stay. So if you have Alzheimer's, will you be going to the hospital for 3 days? No, unless you break your hip or have a stroke. Then you might go to the hospital. Then you would go to the hospital for possibly 3 or more days. Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, massive strokes where there are no cure. They try rehabbing you from the stroke and you can't get back on your feet again. Then you need long-term care. Medicare will not cover that. Then you are on your own. Then what? Well, then you can apply for Medicaid. Okay, well, how do you qualify for Medicaid? Well, I went to this site. It's through Genworth. And every year they do a cost of care survey, and we'll have the link to this below as well. So it talks about the world's population is aging. With medical technology, people are living longer, taking better care of themselves, eating right, exercising. Because of that, you're just delaying the inevitable to a later age. So in our area, we'll pick the state of Washington and Yakima, Washington, where we live. We'll put in our zip code 98902, Yakima, Washington. We can pinpoint the average cost for home care, which is $5,958 per 8-hour shift for 1 month. So if you need three shifts per day, 24/7, multiply that by 3. So we had a relative that needed full-time care round the clock. He never had kids, didn't want to go to a nursing home or assisted living. Round-the-clock care was over $15,000 a month. for about a year as he lived at home. So if you need assisted living care, that would be kind of in between a nursing home and home care, where you still have your own apartment. The average cost might be around $5,000. What about a nursing home where you need the highest level of care? $8,500 per month for a semi-private room, $9,500 per month average for a private room in Yakima, Washington. Well, let's say you live in a big city like Seattle. Let's put in the zip code for Seattle, Washington. Look how the prices have jumped from moving to a small town to a big town. So it depends on your zip code where you live. What if you live in Los Angeles? What would be the cost? Close to Seattle. Now, I'm not even going to look at Hawaii or Alaska because you'll be shocked, or New York City. It just depends on where you live. The least expensive care might be in Mississippi, down in the south, rural areas. But ask yourself, if you have a nest egg of $200,000 and the cost of your care was $9,000 a month today, how much is your care going to cost in 10 years? If you're 65 today, are you going to need care in the next 5, 10 years? There's a good chance you won't. Well, let's fast forward 20 years with inflation. How would your nest egg handle a $20,000 a month bill in 20 years? Think about it. Well, I'll just transfer all my money to my kids, and that way I'll just go on the state and they'll pay the bill. Well, again, the state of Washington, there's a reason they have enacted this new long-term care law. We're going broke, folks. We can't keep doing this. We can't just keep kicking the can down the road. So ask yourself this: what if I had help with the cost of this care? I have long-term care insurance. My wife and I have long-term care insurance. We got it before we turned 50. Why do we do that? Because I saw every day what happens to people. I have clients that are on Medicare that are continually saying, my mom and dad, I've been taking care of them. We just can't handle it anymore. We need help. Do you have any ideas? What can we do? We're basically exhausted. Our kids can't quit working. My daughter's a nurse. She's the nurse director at the hospital. She can't quit her job. And even if she did, could she take care of me 365, 24 hours a day without a break? How do we handle this? How can our kids continue to be our kids without having to be our full-time caregiver? It's one thing to check on your mom or dad every day for an hour or two a day. That's the right thing to do. Don't ignore your parents. Don't stop visiting them. Don't stop calling them. Be their kids. But can you be their caregiver 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year before you end up having a stroke? Then what? So people that say, oh, my kids promised me this, my kids promised me I'll never go, that's not based in reality most of the time, unless you have a huge extended family that can step in. Or I'll just go up on a mountain, and you know who my insurance policy is with? It's with Smith & Wesson. Okay, if you have a major stroke, how are you going to get up there? How are you going to lift that gun? We're talking about serious things. Are you going to have your kids do it? I don't think so. I wouldn't do it if my parents asked me to do it. Giving away all your money, going on Medicaid. So let's use a school bus analogy. Okay, do you want to drive the bus of your care, or do you want the government to drive the bus of your care? Because if you go on Medicaid, the government's driving the bus, and they're going to drive where there's room. You don't get to pick and choose where your care is received. You go where there's a bed that's available for a facility that's willing to take maybe 50 cents on the dollar. So the nicer facilities that don't take Medicaid, guess what? You can't go there because you are on the state. You're now a ward of the state. So you got to ask yourself, do you want to stay in control, or do you want the government to be in control? Do you want to keep your assets or have to spend down your assets? Well, at this cost, we can even fast forward 30 years. What if you're 65 today and in 30 years you're 95? Can you afford these kinds of costs, or could your kids afford them? Well, what's the solution? it may be long-term care insurance, and it doesn't have to be a full Cadillac plan. We can look at plans. Now, these are based on your age and your health. It's very important. We can look at plans that are affordable. Now, long-term care isn't for everyone. If you don't have a nest egg, if you don't have savings, if you have a very low income, don't worry about long-term care. That's what Medicaid's for. We're trying to protect Medicaid for people who truly need long-term care and don't have the ability to buy long-term care insurance. So a couple types of long-term care insurance we can talk about. One's a hybrid plan. One's the traditional plan. With the traditional plan, you pay the insurance company a monthly premium, and it could be $200 a month, $400 a month, give or take, depending on your age. Maybe less, maybe more, depending on your age. And it's not one size fits all. So you can buy life insurance in any dollar denomination that you wish if you qualify for it. So you can buy $1 million policy, a $500,000 policy, a $200,000 policy. You could add extra riders onto the policy. Long-term care insurance works very similarly to life insurance in that it's very customizable depending on the situation and the person. So we can design it from scratch. It's not like Medicare supplement plans where there's basically 10 plans to pick from. With long-term care, it's not one size fits all. You can buy a traditional policy, and then the insurance company will pay your claim if you need long-term care, either due to a cognitive condition or a physical condition. As long as you meet the criteria and your doctor certifies you need care, it's going to cover the cost of your care up to the policy limits. So you don't have to have a plan that pays everything. Maybe you get a partial plan that pays half the cost, and you can leverage your savings to pay the other half of your cost or your interest on your nest egg. That way you're not depleting the golden goose. That's one option. Or you can leverage part of your nest egg and buy a hybrid plan that would pay whether you need long-term care or not. So that's like having the iPhone. Remember the flip phones? They only did one thing with life insurance. With life insurance, think of the old kind of life insurance as the old-fashioned rotary phone that only did one thing and only pays if you die. Well, the new kinds of life insurances are more like an iPhone. They can pay for long-term care. They can minimize your tax cost or your beneficiaries or your heirs' tax burden. They can also pay for long-term care. There's many things you can do with life insurance and or annuity contracts that would pay no matter whether you need long-term care or not. So if you're afraid of never needing long-term care, you can look at a life insurance that includes long-term care. That way it's going to pay no matter what. And you won't think, well, man, I'm kind of wasting money. What if I never need it? Well, guess what? There's a solution you can consider. And if you're to the point where you can't qualify for long-term care due to pre-existing conditions, you need to tell your kids to watch this video. You owe it to them. Not only yourself, but you owe it to them and your friends and family. If you have more questions about long-term care, reach out to us at seniorsolutions.net. Feel free to reach out to us by phone. We are Senior Solutions Group, and we offer solutions for seniors and people that are working, getting ready to retire, thinking about retiring. Share this video with a friend. It's critically important to do so. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to our video. We care about you out there. We want to help you in any way we can. Thank you so much.